this week's Growing, Eating, and Educating, NanBop Farm Director Jason Abraham joins us to discuss overwintering your livestock.
And I have no idea what that means, but that's why Jason
he's
is here
to
tell us all about it, because the winter months are, we've just kind of lived through most of them for the most part, but if there's no forage and food available, you got to do something to provide some way of life for your livestock. So Jason, tell us how NanBop is keeping livestock well fed out there. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Nice to see you this morning.
Yes, you as well.
So, I know we're a little late in the season to talk about the overwintering side of things, but, I'm still overwintering my chickens, for example. And when it comes to our livestock on the farm, chickens are our number one. We have more chickens than any other animal. I'm looking about almost 170 chickens roughly in that number.
Oh my gosh.
So I've actually got them divided in two different locations. They're both indoors for the season. They've been indoors since November when we had that first real big 8-inch, 9-inch snowstorm hit us.
Right.
And the most important thing about it is you have to find a way to provide the sustenance that your animals are used to. And I know that sounds kind of hard, but if you think about it, for example, we have the goats. Now we don't have sheep, we don't have cattle at the moment, so we're not going to talk about those large head herds that stay out in the field all winter long and whatnot. But our goats are free ranging. However, they do come inside every night. They prefer to be inside, so I do leave an area for them inside. I leave a nice thick bed for them to lay on to keep them warm. But more importantly, I provide them hay grass. I'll provide them some alfalfa. I'll provide them a pelleted goat feed and then some cracked corn. And what I'm doing with the hay and the alfalfa is I'm trying to mimic what they can naturally get wandering out in the field.
Okay.
That makes
So,
sense. Okay.
you go with the alfalfa because the alfalfa, it is high in protein. It is a legume. It is very important for them to eat that. However, it can lead to downstream problems if they overeat it.
Let me ask you too, because obviously the obvious answer is because you have to eat to live. But what other reasons are there for keeping them well fed in the winter? What other benefits are there?
So it really comes down to health. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to make sure is that your animals don't lose a ton of weight during the off season, because if they lose weight, they become susceptible to disease. They become susceptible to parasites, and you've got to really be careful. That's why you have to make sure everything's very clean. You want to make sure you don't have feces in their food and things like that. So you really have to keep an eye on your food streams.
Well, the same rules for humans.
I was going to say.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, I don't like feces in my cereal. So
Exactly. So winterizing and wintering, is that the right word?
Wintering.
Okay. It's basically just making sure they have everything they need in their little area when they go in for the night, and they're set up.
100%.
Okay.
Another nice thing you can do is you can gather certain kitchen scraps, apple cores, banana peels. Not that a lot of people eat a lot of watermelon in the winter, but watermelon rinds.
Okay.
Some other melon rinds. Those are all very good things that goats like to eat. Goats are scavengers, and one of the things you want to leave available to them, and we kind of have this available to them even though you lose the leaves during the winter, is, believe it or not, goats like to eat leaves and branches of young trees. So you want to give them the ability to access those young trees. There's a lot of nutrients in it. And one of the things we have here in Michigan is a lot of wild cherry plant. So we have lots of wild cherry everywhere. Believe it or not, that's actually toxic to goats.
Really?
So you want to make sure you're providing them enough food that they're not going to go scavenging in the things you
And
don't
finding
want
the
them
things.
eating.
Okay.
You've got apples, apricots, bananas, oranges, watermelon, all these various fruits that we consume that we
Good
can,
options.
and they're very good options. Now you want to avoid, especially with goats, don't give them anything nightshade family. So no eggplants, no tomatoes. You want to be very careful. They're toxic to them as well. Much like our milkweed. We have a lot of milkweed out on our farm. The reason we have the milkweed out there is twofold. One, it attracts pollinators like the monarch, for example. Yep. And secondly, milkweed is wonderful at repelling Japanese beetles. So where our fruit trees are, we have a bunch of milkweed we grow in that area because the Japanese beetles love fruit trees and they hate milkweed. So we try to keep that milkweed present, but I got to be careful because that's bad for goats. But when the milkweed's growing and then blooming towards the end of the season, at that point in time, there's so much forage on the ground. They have plenty of food to go after.
So
we've got less than a minute left, but I wanted to know when the temperature, cooperates enough for the chickens, for example, because we had 30 degrees on
Yeah,
Tuesday, but we
fluctuates.
could see 70, but all the back and forth might be a challenge too. Just a few seconds left.
Yep, I'm fighting that right now. We're cleaning and retooling the mobile coop just to make sure everything's fresh and ready to go. But you want to give them parsley and other leafy greens to keep them happy. I'm trying to find exactly when, so I follow Michael Stevens very closely to try to make sure I know when I feel comfortable putting them back out in the field. And we're only a couple weeks away, so it's
perfect.
coming for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, Jason, you are a wealth of knowledge. I feel like whenever we talk, it's like the dictionary of farming right here. He knows it all. He just spits it out, and I'm like,
That's why he's here.
This is why it's in your hands.
Awesome.
Very
Jason Abraham,
confident.
thanks from NanBop. Good to have you with
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.